Welcome all to the Department of Energy's SBIR, STTR, Fiscal Year 14, Phase 1, Release 2 Topics webinar. My name is Chris O'Gwyn, and I will be moderating today's meeting and also introducing the topic portion of this overview to you. Manny Oliver, the Director of the Department's SBIR, STTR Programs Office, offers his apologies that he couldn't make it today, but he will be online tomorrow for the second half of our topics webinar. This go-around for this release, topics, Phase 1, Release 2 topics, we have 22 topics, and today, following my introduction, you'll hear from the subtopic and topic managers and or their representatives for topics 1 and 22 and for 2 and through 8. Topic 9 is a TTO, Technology Transfer Opportunity topic, which will not be covered during this either one of these discussions today or tomorrow. So we would recommend that you go ahead and contact those points of contact directly if you have any questions in regards to the TTO topic 9. Okay, so today's agenda. What we will be covering is just the first couple minutes. I'll be talking to you a little bit about the way we organize and put these topics together. And then, as I mentioned earlier, you'll be hearing from the two offices, the Office of Electricity Delivery and Energy Reliability for topics 1 and 22. And then the remainder will be with the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. Okay, what we do with Phase 1, I guess as early as or as late or just a few years ago, we just would put out one release a year. We didn't even call it a release. We just called our funding opportunity announcement for Phase 1. We have now divided that into two separate solicitations, one that comes out normally in the summer, and the other that comes out, Release 2, comes out in the fall time, and that's where we are right now. And so if you look down there at Phase 1, Release 2, those are the program offices within the Department of Energy that are going to be putting out topics for this solicitation. Here's our schedule, and if you go to our website, you will find a table that looks very similar to this. And what it will do, and it almost will always look the same. The dates are very similar going from one year to the next, so you can plan on a Release 2 coming out in the fall time. And the same thing with the Release 1 coming out. The topics would be issued in July of that year. They're always within a day or so. We do on our website, we have these listed all the way through 2015. We have the 2013, 14, and 15 schedules for both Phase 1 and Phase 2. So the topics were recently issued on Monday, October 28th, and what we will be doing is opening up the funding opportunity announcement in November for you then to go ahead and submit a letter of intent as to whether or not which topic you are interested in applying for under the funding opportunity announcement. Following the opening of this and before the closing, the letter of intent is due in December, and that's December 16th. If you follow that column there, up and down there, you'll see that the full applications are due next calendar year in February. And of course, we will let all know of the notification of awards in April, and then the grants start in early June. So what you're listening to right now is a topics webinar. The topics opened up on the 28th. Following that, we do have a funding opportunity announcement webinar, and that is going to be scheduled for December 3rd. So if you received an email about these topics webinars, you will also be on that same email list to receive a notification and registration invitation for the FOA webinar. The FOA webinar is where you will be asking all of the questions that are near and dear to your heart as to what an application looks like, the elements of an application, due dates, letters of commitment, commercialization plans, all of the elements of an application and submitting and eligibility. That is the webinar that you will want to attend if you have those type of questions. Today's webinar is just about the technical content and as much as we can get in just 5 or 10 minutes worth on the topics. So if you have any questions on these topics as we discuss them today, please submit those in your chat box at the bottom of your screen there. And following each of the technical topic managers or their representatives' presentation on these topics, I will read these questions aloud, and we'll let the topic manager address them as appropriate. So the basics. As I mentioned earlier, topics are created by the DOE program managers, and they are the ones working in conjunction with laboratories, our national labs, or our universities. They work very closely with them. That's where most of our R&D funding goes to, and so they work in conjunction to develop the topics. And as you go through this topics document on our website, and as provided to you in the registration link, you'll see that there is under each subtopic is a point of contact, and that's one of our federal managers that is responsible for making the funding decisions under each of those topics that he or she may be listed for. If you have any questions and you're seeking any type of clarification on the topics or in subtopics, you go to that document and you go ahead and contact those folks by way of email as listed in the document there. What we want to emphasize is that we will provide you clarification, but our managers are not going to sit down and talk with you and tell you whether or not your technology or your specific innovation is responsive to what they are looking for. They can just provide you their insight, but they will not tell you. The decision to apply is 100% yours. Regardless of what you hear from our managers, the decision is all yours. So here's an example topic. I apologize for it is a tight fit here, but it has all the elements that you will find when you're going through our topics document here. What we do is we start off with the title of the topic, and each topic has a description of what we're looking for, and then we have subtopics. This one happens to have 2 subtopics, A and B. And you'll notice under each of these is a point of contact. Those are the questions that I was referring to earlier. So these are the people that you will want to email. In addition, what you will see, and not all of these topics have this, is an other subtopic. And this is a catch-all. If you have an innovation or technology that is certainly related to the topic description up here, but it doesn't quite seem to fit with one of the subtopics, you're more than welcome to submit it to here, into the other subtopic. However, you're going to have to specify in your letter of intent which topic and subtopic you were applying to. If you do not submit a letter of intent, then you will not. You will be administratively declined if you try to submit an application. So that letter of intent is very important. It's an abstract. It enables us to do a few things, and foremost is to identify the number of applicants that will be submitting to a certain subtopic, and that will educate us as to how many reviewers we need to find for that. So this is a mandatory here, the letter of intent, and it's a mandatory requirement that you need to pay attention to. All the guidance will be in the funding opportunity announcement, and we will also be discussing that during the FOA webinar. We have the topic header, and we also have here a table which tells you what is the minimum phase award amount that will be that you can expect to get out of this, and what is the maximum amount, whether or not we're accepting fast track applications or STTR applications. So pay attention to that, because each topic has its own blue table there that lists this information, and it's not all the same. And lastly, what I'll mention about this is that these are the references that the technical managers, our federal managers and their cohorts have provided to educate you as to more specifically what they are looking for and how. It kind of gives you some insight on the how and why they are putting these topics out and seeking your ideas on them. So you're going to want to pay attention to those, and you're going to want to go to those links. They're very informative. And without further ado, let me just wrap this up. I would encourage you, if you are not on this mailing list, our email list, is to go ahead. Following the webinar, you will receive a recorded, you will receive a link to the recording of this webinar and also a copy of the PowerPoint slides. However, if the registration was forwarded to you by somebody else, what you will need to do then is get on our mailing list to receive these invitations in the future directly. So I would highly encourage you to do that. So let me go ahead and move on to our first topic here. This is topic 1, and I believe we have Stan Atcity. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, Stan, why don't you go ahead and kick this off, and I believe you'll be discussing both subtopics under topic 1.
That's correct. Okay, so this topic, topic 1, is focused on the use of gallium nitride devices for grid-tied energy storage system. Energy storage systems come in containerized units recently. In the last 5 to 7 years, you start to see energy storage in shipping containers. The moment we mention shipping container, it provides a form factor for us. It's providing very unique challenges for the energy storage technology as well as the power electronics, where size, power density, and weight is very important. Now, wide bandgap devices such as silicon carbide and gallium nitride have been very attractive. They have the higher switching frequencies, higher blocking voltages, lower switching losses, and higher junction temperatures. Higher switching frequencies means that we can have lower or smaller passive devices, providing for high density design and also better bandwidth in the controls. Higher blocking voltages require for less voltages utilized for high voltage applications, then thus smaller designs. And higher junction temperature is very attractive in a way that now we can operate these at higher junction temperatures with minimal cooling. It's unlike the electric vehicle program where water cooling is available. We have the option of getting rid of the water cooling. So higher power density and performance very attractive for containerized energy storage systems. To date, there are a number of silicon carbide-based systems developed, and more recently, gallium nitride has emerged with some promising characteristics. They have low on-state resistance and higher switching frequency, and they can both reduce conduction and switching losses. So therefore, we have a higher power density design. But they have some challenges. They have there's lack of good insulating gate oxide materials to date. They have low breakdown voltages, and the device stability and reliability continues to be an R&D topic. So for topic A, we're focused on gallium nitride devices for high-frequency link converters. Typical designs, energy storage design, have a DC to DC front end that controls the charge, current, and ripple, and then it's tied to a DC to AC inverter at the back end, and they're typically tied to 60 hertz transformer tied to the grid. This topic, we're focusing on high-frequency link, where you take the 60 hertz transformer, push it into the power electronics, and now you have energy storage with a DC to DC converter with a high-frequency transformer operating at greater than 15 kilohertz. And then finally at the back end, DC to AC direct-tied converter to the grid. So The thing we're looking at is, as far as the requirements for this topic, greater than 600 volts DC link, greater than 50 kilowatts power, 480 volts AC output, junction temperatures greater than 120 degrees C, and greater than 15 kilohertz transformer. The design must show significant improvement over traditional systems. Now, topic B is primarily focused on DC to DC gallium nitride-based DC to DC converter. That's the main focus. It's not a high-frequency link like topic A, but this is a typical DC to DC converter, but using gallium nitride switches for this conversion. And the requirement for that is the boost voltage of greater than 600 volts DC, greater than 98% efficiency, greater than 20 kilohertz switching frequency, and 2 times increase in power density. Again, we must show significant improvement over silicon-based systems. So these are the 2 topics, very quick description of each, and let us know if you have any further questions.
Stan, thank you very much. That was topic 1 here. And I believe we have, I'd like to point out to you that not all of our topic managers ever have made it to any one webinar. So there will be some pockets where questions are not, topic managers are not available. So if you do have any questions, this is where it's very important that you contact these technical managers in the technical document directly. You can do that. The other thing is you can go ahead and text your question and make sure you identify which topic or subtopic you are asking that question about, and we will ensure that the technical topic manager gets these and responds to them appropriately or as necessary. So, but we'll go ahead and move on. I do know in topic 2 we have 1 or 2 individuals. Topic 22. We have Phil Overholt, who's still with the Office of Electricity Delivery and Energy Reliability. Philip?
Yes, thank you, Chris. Topic 22 is focused on the area of fault detection, and there are 2 types of detection here that we're thinking about, and these for overhead lines at the transmission or distribution level, you have both what I call incipient faults, where there's in some way there is a partial discharge from a line, maybe a limb being on a line, or some other like an animal or another partial short on another piece of equipment in the system, and those partial discharges are normally located today by having some type of receiver in a mobile situation to try to track down those types of faults, and it takes some triangulating and movements, a number of movements to locate those faults. And so what we're looking for here, and also these types of partial discharge faults are what you're looking for with that technology, and for essentially a fault where the circuit's tripped, you really can't apply that technology because of if there's a flashover, then it's there and gone. So what this topic's describing is a technology that can be used as listed under the requirements area. We're looking for some type of a technology that can be deployed that is in operation essentially full time, so that it can detect partial discharges and also detect actual faults, flashovers, so that it can record then the location of the flashover or the partial discharge, and in the partial discharge case can detect it early on, so that action can be taken to detect what's actually going on. So with the other other features should be that you can record what you're measuring with a partial discharge, and you can transmit that information back to a location that could take some action, and this should be able to be deployed over a wide area on a transmission or distribution system, so that you have a large coverage over that area. And and it should be able to easily install this type of technology, and it should be able to locate the partial discharge and, of course, the flashover almost instantly. So that's the overview for the overhead type installation. The 22 does also talk about underground situations, and so that brought the question that's been submitted prior to this call on the topic 22 question. Chris, did you want to read that?
No, Phil, if you've got the question there, why don't you go ahead and read that yourself and address it the way you need to. Thank you.
And the question is, can topic 22 be split into two subtopics rather than one as now listed? One for above-ground power cables and their components, and one for underground power cables and their components. The implementation effort is very different for above and underground cables due to the environmental challenges. And with the way I would respond to that is that the applicant can indeed indicate which they are responding to, underground or overhead, and when we receive those applications, then we can evaluate those with that type of deployment in mind. From what Chris said earlier, you should, if you're going to respond to essentially one or the other, you should indicate which one, or if we're responding to both, you should indicate that, so that we can have the contact the appropriate type of reviewer for each of those technologies, which I think are likely to be significantly different. That, I believe, that's all I have to offer on this topic.
Philip, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And any questions for Philip, go ahead and send that to him at that email address you see there, and he will diligently get back with you. So let's go ahead and move on.
Okay.
We're now leaving the Office of Electricity Delivery and Energy Reliability, and we're going to start with topic 2 here, advanced manufacturing. I believe we have one or two of the managers that will address this topic. Tina?
Hi. Yeah, this is Tina Karsberg. I'm actually the overall EERE SBIR portfolio manager. But I wanted to say that if there are questions, could we maybe ask one to get it on the record so that we would be sure to address it? Because one of the things EERE is going to be doing is we are going to take the questions you ask, either that you typed in advance or that you asked during this or that you asked later. We're going to try to put the ones that are very broad, we're going to post them on our website. So if there is a question, could we just ask it and not answer it at this point, but have it for the record and then post an answer later?
Yes, absolutely. We can do that. And so, but I do believe we have David Forrest here who represents topic 2B. Is that correct, David?
Yes, that's correct. Rapid heat treatment of metals.
So the floor is yours, David.
I'm sorry, can you say again, please?
It's all you. The floor is yours.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Chris and Tina, and hello, everyone. This topic is focused on particularly induction heating, but not necessarily so. And the thinking is that there are a lot of furnaces out there that do continuous heat treatment of metals, and a large fraction of the metals, whether it's steel or aluminum or copper or other metals that are produced, are in the form of thin sheet and strip, and would be particularly amenable to benefit from technology such as induction heating that has the capability of, if you have a continuous, for example, annealing line that is typically 100 or 150 meters long, technology such as induction heating can heat that material in a much shorter length, on the order of a few meters instead of 100 meters. And what comes with that is energy savings in the form of a higher efficiency process. Also, another benefit would be, in some cases, you would have a reduced amount of oxidation of the metal because it's being heated, even if it's heated in air, heated and cooled in a very short period of time, giving you a higher yield. Another opportunity exists in terms of novel heat treatments of various materials that could result in a much finer grain size that maybe would enable superplastic forming, or would allow you to take advantage of the kinetics of diffusion and phase transformations. By having this rapid heat treatment, you can, in some sense, defeat the physics of diffusion. You just don't have enough time for the atoms to move around to their equilibrium positions, and what you get is a heterogeneous microstructure that can give you novel properties. And so through a combination of improved energy efficiency, maybe novel properties that give you higher performance, for example, if you have significantly improved strength, maybe you only have to use half the amount of material in your application, and as well as the lowered oxidation of the metals during heat treatment and improved yields. A combination of all of these, we're looking for a targeted 50% reduction in the embodied energy of parts and materials that are produced through a rapid heat treatment process that gives you these advantages. So that's a quick and dirty summary of what we're looking for, and happy to entertain any questions that might be out there.
Let me look here in the chat box, David. Topic. David, I think that's all we've got here. We have some other subtopics that people are submitting at the moment, but I think we're clear. Again, if you have any questions for any of these topic managers listed on your screen, there's their email address. So go ahead and get your questions to them, and they'll address them as quickly as they can get to them. So thank you very much, David. I appreciate it. Okay, so we're going to move on to buildings here. And I believe we have started kicking off the buildings. It would be subtopic 3A. That would be Ed Petrow. Is that correct, Ed? You there?
I am indeed. Thank you very much, Chris, and good afternoon, everyone. This new topic was prepared to encourage submission of thoughtful proposals that represent viable commercialization opportunities consistent with those of the SBIR STTR Program Office, and that might only require modest DOE investment, possibly even less than the typical budget proposal of $150K. Thus, the topic description is very different than what typically appeared in prior SBIR STTR FOAs. So for those of you who are listening who are familiar with the solid-state lighting activity and perhaps even submitted or participated in the program in prior fiscal years, read the present description very carefully and be aware of this substantial thematic change. The fundamental goal of this topic is to encourage thoughtful, innovative, timely, inexpensive solid-state lighting general illumination products that perhaps utilize modern design and manufacturing techniques or that incorporate advanced digital devices to rapidly produce useful products that serve a very rapidly evolving market in time periods consistent with those of the SBIR STTR program. Under this particular FOA, the solid-state lighting activity is not interested in supporting the traditional R&D focus areas that instead will hopefully continue to be the focus of other FOAs whose complete and timely details can always be found on the solid-state lighting website, which I think is included as reference for topic 3A. The three possible areas of interest listed in this FOA should be considered as broad suggestions that are included to help get your creative juices flowing and should not be considered as limitations in scope. The only real limitations to the ideas that would be found acceptable are those ideas that do not advance market penetration of solid-state lighting in a significant and measurable way, or that are inconsistent with the goals of the multi-year program plan, which is also available for download at the solid-state lighting website. You may propose to use any solid-state lighting technology as a basis for the proposed product, which means that either LEDs or OLEDs may be included as source technologies. The proposed product should have clear commercialization potential and should address a specific general illumination market opportunity. Successful proposals should make not only sound technical sense, but should also present a compelling business case for DOE investment and support. Finally, I would say please pay careful attention to the last paragraph of the topic description in 3A that describes the very few basic requirements a successful proposal should include, but they should also be considered in addition to all of the requirements that are specified by the SBIR STTR Program Office and are described elsewhere. So with that, I thank you for your attention, and I don't know if we have any questions to answer.
I'll tell you what, Ed, why don't we move on to Karma and Amir, and if you can stay on the line for the rest of this topic, we'll go ahead and address the questions at that point.
Can do.
So,
thank you.
Okay, thank you. And so Karma, are you available there for 3B?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll go ahead and get started. I'll try to be brief here. We are looking for technologies, advanced manufacturing processes specifically, that can reduce soft costs for energy efficient building envelope technologies that are specifically suited for retrofitting existing buildings. When I talk about retrofit opportunities, I'm really talking about the building structure itself, so that walls, roofs, windows, things along those lines. Those components vary widely from building to building, and as a result, retrofits are done on a case-by-case basis with very long construction times, high labor costs, and as a result, energy efficient improvements might have negative impacts, for example, on indoor air quality or moisture control if they're not done appropriately. Those balance of systems costs can take up 75 to 80% of the total installed cost for a given energy efficient technology. So we're looking for advanced manufacturing processes that can reduce the labor cost, not the material cost, but everything else. So some of the suggestions that you see in the write-up, much like the last case, are really just intended to get your creative juices flowing, point you in the direction of some things we're considering, but are not intended to be limiting. So we've considered, for example, low-cost advanced thermal insulation that's extremely thin so that it can enable quick interior retrofits, or that it can be so that they can be combined with exterior siding or roofing products. Again, trying to enable quick retrofit times. So if you can come up with a modular component that could be easily shipped and attached or integrated with the existing building structure, that would fit the bill. But again, these are just suggestions and are by no means intended to be limiting. Ultimately, what we're looking for is a total installed cost for a proposed technology that would show a simple payback period of less than 7 years. That's all I have. I'm trying to be fairly brief and straightforward, but I'm happy to take any questions if anyone has them.
Thanks, Carmen. I think you're right on topic, and if you can hang tight for a few minutes, we'll let Amir go ahead and talk about subtopic C. Amir?
Great.
Yep,
Thank you.
I'm here.
Great.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Yeah, great. Okay, I'll just, again, like Carmen, I'll be very brief. My name is Amir Roth. I'm the technology manager for building energy modeling. This is whole building energy simulation, where you describe the assets and operations of the building, run a software program, in this case, Energy Plus, that is DOE's flagship simulation engine, and then you can use the results to, typically to drive building design or retrofit analysis, or, in some emerging use cases, operations. The DOE sort of has a long history of investing and supporting state-of-the-art energy modeling and embodying it in Energy Plus. We have a much shorter and much less successful history in taking that engine and sort of putting it in the hands of end-use practitioners. What we've done in the last couple of years is put a software development kit around Energy Plus, which will hopefully reduce the cost to develop end-user applications that use energy simulation with Energy Plus, and improve the value proposition of getting into the end-user or software business for folks. This toolkit, this development toolkit, is called Open Studio. And what we're looking for here really is for people to take these two pieces, the engine and then this SDK on top of it, and take it the last mile, to the design community, the architecture community, the engineering community, auditors, and so on and so forth, by developing and deploying these last mile end user tools, whether they're desktop tools, mobile tools, web-based tools, plugins for existing workflows, or as the case may be, where we are really sort of looking for creative ideas, things that bring this technology to segments of the market that are not really using them very well right now. So small buildings, small portfolios, trying to really do things that make this technology fast and easy for people to use, to sort of help it proliferate. that's really all I have. I mean, I just am excited to see, what kind of ideas, people have for this space.
Great, Amir. Okay, well, we do have a few questions for this this whole topic here. I'll let one of you or all three of you address these. I would encourage everybody who's texting or chatting in your questions, please identify which topic and subtopic number, like 3B, 3A, 4B, whatever you may be wanting to know. It'll make it easier for me as I try to figure out which questions go where. So what we have some time for a couple questions. I'm going to read this one question for topic 3. So it must be subtopic B. Does PV solar panels qualify? That might be for you, Karma.
No, it does not.
They do not qualify. Well, that was easy enough right there. We have another general question in terms of what if my technology falls into 2 topics? I would tell you to go ahead and speak with both of those topic managers. And then ultimately, as I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the webinar, the decision to submit is up to you. Ultimately, your technology has to be responsive to the topic, and it's very, very rare, and I've never been aware of something that has been responsive, one technology, at least one application that's responsive to 2 different topics. So you will need to make that determination, but you cannot submit the same application for 2 topics. Well, we have a question that says, does this need to be for one fixture? That might have been for you, Ed. And that may not make sense.
Yeah, it could be for an array or for an entire building.
Okay. And see if I can read this question. It's kind of, I would like to, will the use of low-cost MEMS sensors that can detect thermal temperatures among other environmental conditions combined with advanced lighting and communication technologies be a good fit for this SBIR topic? And I'm assuming it's not, because none of you 3 are actually answering this question.
So I assume, since we're talking about lighting, that it was not directed at me.
Right.
But in terms of the building envelope component, no, it's not responsive to this technology area.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I had my mute button pressed and nobody heard my answer.
But
no. The answer is yes. I think something like that would be acceptable under topic 3A, provided the connection to the advancement of solid-state lighting was clear.
Very good. And any other questions? Go ahead and continue to submit those, and we will get those off to one of the 3 here and all the others that have spoken to this point. Thank you very much, Ed, Karma, and Amir. Let's go ahead and move on to topic 4. This will be fuel cells, and I believe we have Greg Moreland on the line here. Greg?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I'm going to be speaking for Pete Devlin, who has a conflict, and I'm going to provide some background on topic 4A, which is the demonstration of a prototype fuel cell battery electric hybrid truck for waste transportation. And the Fuel Cells Technologies Office is collaborating with a lot of public and private stakeholders to establish fuel cell and hydrogen energy technologies as economically competitive contributors to transportation needs in the United States. The Market Transformation Subprogram of the Fuel Cell Technologies Office is supporting development and demonstration projects involving several transportation applications. Now these projects, since it's market transformation, these projects are evaluating commercial or near commercial stage demonstrations of these technologies. And the aim is to build on the commercial successes in applications such as fuel cell powered lift trucks by helping the fuel cell industry commercialize other transportation applications. Projects underway include heavy-duty drayage trucks using fuel cell battery electric hybrid drivetrains, baggage tow tractors at airport facilities, and fuel cell auxiliary power units, or APUs, to power truck refrigeration units on refrigerated trucks. From FCTO's research, we believe waste hauling vehicles, or garbage trucks, represent an opportunity for fuel cell technologies to convert a diesel vehicle technology into a zero-emission vehicle technology. Diesel garbage trucks are a major source of air pollutants and greenhouse gas emissions. Other significant concerns, especially in urban areas, involving diesel garbage trucks include meeting noise ordinances and anti-idling ordinances. Now, Fuel Cell Technologies Office seeks projects that develop and demonstrate a proof of concept for heavy-duty fuel cell battery electric hybrid trucks for waste hauling applications. The fuel cells should be those that operate on hydrogen fuel. The specific vehicles of interest are commercial trucks that pick up and haul waste or recycled materials to landfills or recycling centers in their daily operations. And in this topic, FCTO seeks technology and business solutions that will help, number one, establish a business case, two, mitigate the cost of hydrogen and fuel infrastructure, and three, demonstrate fuel cell battery electric hybrid truck technologies. Now let me speak a little bit to the expected outcomes. For phase one, what's expected is a design feasibility analysis and plan that describes the power system and the truck designs to the truck design. In other words, what FCTO is seeking is analysis that would support an optimal battery fuel cell hydrogen configuration that fully meets the power usage of a garbage truck in a typical daily route. Now, something similar has been done by Argonne National Laboratory earlier this year in their study, the benefits of using a fuel cell auxiliary power unit to double the range of current battery electric vehicles. You know, we highlight this to suggest using it as a guide for planning the fuel consumption, the cost trade-offs, and other impacts of using a small fuel cell to extend the driving range of a battery electric vehicle. We're also looking in phase one for an economic assessment, which would include a payback analysis using a hydrogen-fueled PEM fuel cell for this application versus using the incumbent technology. So we're looking at the value proposition and analysis of the primary cost drivers, which is essentially a comparison of diesel fuel versus hydrogen fuel and some other expected cost drivers such as maintenance. In phase two, what FCTO is looking for is a prototype vehicle that is tested for a minimum of 100 hours of real-world operations, and looking for a final report which would describe the operations, the performance results, and a commercialization plan. I mean, with that, I'm happy to entertain any questions.
I'm looking through here, Greg. Hang tight for a second.
Sure.
We've got some 6B questions coming in, some topic 2 questions. I think we have no fuel cell questions at the moment. So
okay.
Greg, thank you very much. We'll get any of those to you that come in after the fact, and we'll go ahead and move on to our next topic here. Thank you very much.
Sure.
So this would be topic 5. This is our geothermal topic, and I believe we have Greg Stillman on the line. Greg, you there?
Yes, good afternoon.
Hi, Greg.
The geothermal program is seeking technologies that reduce the cost of well construction, excluding rock reduction. So we are not interested in new drill bits, new drag bits, new PDCs. Those aspects of well construction are not in the purview of this topic. We're really looking at all the other cost drivers in the construction of a wellbore, geothermal wellbore, owing to the fact that even if we could drill at lightning speeds, these wells would still be a significant cost driver for an overall geothermal development. In the topic description on science.energy.gov, we have included some reference material for the community to help perhaps look at and reference in formulating their proposals. There's a particularly good report by Sandia National Lab that is one example of identifying some of the non-rock reduction technology, or cost drivers for constructing these wells bores. So I encourage the community to take a look at that and also contact me if there's any other questions. But essentially, it's a particularly broad topic in a way, but we are looking for ways to reduce wellbore costs that aren't perhaps in our normal portfolio and exclude rock reduction technologies. And so with that, I'd take any questions if there are any, or if they're submitted at a later time, we'd certainly be able to help clarify our intent.
Thank you, Greg. I think we're good to go. We can move on to the solar topic, and we'll get any. Please email Greg with any questions you have in regards to this geothermal subtopic here. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and move on to topic 6, which is our solar topic. And discussing this will be the Solar's representative, Scott Morgan. Scott, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
Okay. We can hear you just fine. Thanks, Scott.
Okay, great. Well, good afternoon, good morning to some of you. Thanks for attending this portion of the webinar. The Solar Energy Technologies Office, or Sunshot, has put forth a number of technical topic areas, as you see here. If you'll allow me, I'd like to first recognize a few cross-cutting items. First, if you take a look at this chart here, we've transitioned to higher funding award levels, $225 and $1.5 million. We are also accepting fast-track applications. Also, the grantees will be paid by invoice-based reimbursement rather than upfront funding as a mechanism to improve DOE's visibility into the project finances. Sunshot is seeking proposals for technically meritorious high-impact projects. These may be disruptive in nature or incrementally progressive, but widely applicable. As such, applicants are strongly encouraged to present a project plan that's inclusive of specific technical and business milestones or deliverables that can serve as figures of merit towards demonstration of feasibility and potential commercial adoption. Also, we're seeking proposals that quantify the achievable cost reductions or performance improvement and clearly state all assumptions. So I do believe that the subtopic descriptions in the solicitation are well described in terms of Sunshot's interest. We tried to articulate a balance between identifying relatively specific topic areas with the potential to drive towards our mission of accelerating solar deployment without prescribing or precluding potential solutions that you as applicants may have. So in terms of Solar's mission, I do encourage applicants to familiarize themselves with the goals of the Sunshot Initiative. The Sunshot Vision Study, which describes those, can be downloaded at www.eere.energy.gov/solar/Sunshot. So as I mentioned, 4 subtopics here. The first, software tools for PV, soft cost reduction, and grid integration. This is a broad subtopic aimed to develop and leverage information technology solutions that can be applied to PV soft costs and grid integration. It's not a surprise to some of us in the field that the soft cost, non-hardware balance of systems costs now account for the lion's share of installed PV costs. The description here offers a partial listing of some of the challenges associated with soft costs that can be addressed with IT-based solutions. They include streamlining of sales and system design aspects, expediting of permitting, installation, and interconnection, and next-generation site assessment and bid preparation. We also believe there's a role for IT in facilitating cost-effective grid integration of PV systems, specifically to aggregate, visualize, analyze, and control PV at the distribution feeder, substation, and sub-transmission level in real time. to synchronize and manage integrated PV resources at the distribution level, and to expedite the utility PV interconnection technical screening process. Some means to achieve these ends could include open source and enterprise tools, bulk transmission and dynamic distribution engineering analysis software, and others as identified in the topic description. The second subtopic here, analytical and numerical modeling and data aggregation. Again, well described, but essentially we're seeking to foster development of data analytics tools that can provide actionable insights to stakeholders throughout the entire value chain. The numerical models could be mathematical models that use some sort of numerical time-stepping procedure to obtain the model's behavior over time, which would result in an approximate solution. There could also be analytical models with a closed-form solution relevant to this solicitation. So specifically here with subtopic 6B, Sunshot is interested in novel methods of capturing, aggregating, and analyze structured or unstructured data sets, predictive modeling, and again, some others as identified in the description. We received 2 questions prior to this webinar that I'll address now. Could a new process to collect site-specific solar, high-performance energy, and energy-efficient improvement data on residential homes, which can then improve the transaction process value chain, solar sales, appraisal, insurance, mortgage financing, etc., be eligible for a grant under this program? In response, yes, provided that you're referring to aggregated data sets, this does appear to be within the scope of interest here. Second, I'm looking for more information related to this topic to better understand the needs and work to date. Where can I go to see what DOE has done? So with respect to DOE's work in solar energy and data analytics, you may want to investigate previous funding announcements put out by Sunshot and also those who were awarded under those announcements. Those announcements could include the incubator program or SEEDS, S-E-E-D-S, Solar Energy Evolution and Diffusion Studies programs. I would keep in mind, though, that the solutions that are befitting of these challenges may be outside of the scope of what Sunshot or DOE has already done. They may be translated from some other social or technology area. So you'd be encouraged to cast a wide net both in terms of the application and the work performed to date. The third subtopic relates to concentrating solar power and some components within the supply chain that are sought. The first being molten salt, flexible and rotating couplings, suitable for molten salt, operating at about 550 C, suitable for a 30-year lifetime. Also CSP mirror cleansing systems that can improve annual average trough and heliostat mirror reflectivity while reducing cost and water consumption. Some of the metrics associated with these 2 solicitation subtopics, again, are identified in the solicitation. The final subtopic, labor efficiencies through hardware innovation. Here we are seeking hardware innovations that can reduce installation labor costs by either improving labor efficiency or reducing process complexity. This is another broad subtopic, and we look forward to a range of potential solutions here. And with that, I thank you for your time, and we look forward to receiving your proposal.
Scott, thank you very much. I do believe we have a couple questions here for you and some time remaining. So let me see if I can get to these. Software tools. This would be in terms of 6A, I believe. Software tools for PV soft cost reductions. Would an app for a mobile device be considered?
Well, I think that needs to be kind of articulated a little further, but I wouldn't rule it out quite yet.
So we would advise them to go ahead and submit maybe a more detailed but not too detailed question to solar.sbir@ee.doe.gov. Okay. This is on subtopic C. Okay. U.S. offshore wind. Is this correct here? Hang on a second. Vessels, personnel, and equipment transfer system.
Wrong topic.
Yep, I think that's the wrong topic here.
Topic 8.
Yeah, that's topic 8. So let me move on, keep moving down here. Hang on, Scott. We can't, there's some certain questions. We have a question, does applying for Fast Track preclude your ability from receiving a Phase 1 award? If you apply for a Fast Track but do not win the Fast Track, will your application still be considered for a standalone Phase 1? And the answer is no. You can submit to either Phase 1 on its own merits, or you can submit a Fast Track Phase 1 and Phase 2 application to be considered for that complete 1 and 2 project there. And any other questions in regards to intellectual property or number of awards per subtopic that we're getting here, those will be more appropriate for the funding opportunity announcement webinar that we will put on December 3rd. So I would highly recommend that you tune into that, because we will be covering all kinds of goodies in regards to this eligibility and how an application is put together on that. Scott, I think that's it for here, so we'll go ahead and move on to topic 7. Thank you very much. Did I miss it? Topic 7, vehicles. And with vehicles here, I believe we might be starting off with Brian Cunningham. Brian?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So the Vehicles Technology Office is going to be releasing 6 subtopics here, all of which are in order to help meet our goals of increasing vehicle fuel economy to more than 60 miles per gallon for cars and 43 miles per gallon for trucks by 2025. Our first subtopic is electric drive vehicle batteries. What we're looking for here is more or less development of an electrochemical energy storage technology which supports the commercialization of different electric drive vehicle platforms, whether that be micro, mild, or full HEVs, plug-in electric vehicles, or just full EVs. Within the solicitation topic, we have provided links to various system architectures and the electrochemical performance goals that we are striving for within each of those electric drive platforms. Specifically, we're trying to attack and reduce cost, improve battery performance, specific energy density, maybe improve the manufacturing process, speed, or yield. We tried to be very open with this subtopic, and if you all have any technologies that you think could help us reach our goals, we'd really like to hear your ideas and then evaluate the technologies from that point going forward. Typical questions we usually get is whether this applies to other types of vehicles besides light-duty cars or trucks, such as golf carts and that sort of thing. I guess the easy answer is no, we're not really looking forward to those systems. But if you tailor your approach to advancing the electrochemical energy storage component, you could easily probably find that this would be applicable in that regard. So moving on to our next one, which is lightweight materials. Unfortunately, Will could not be here today, so I'm going to be briefly going over his subtopic, and then if you have any questions that I can't answer, feel free to shoot him an email. In this subtopic, we're looking at developing and demonstrating unique lightweight materials and metal forming processes with the overall goal of reducing weight reduction. We are looking at greater than 60% iron, aluminum, magnesium, or titanium by weight, and making sure that we have a weight savings of greater than 30% at a cost of less than $2 per pound of weight saved. Applicants in this subtopic should emphasize the production or forming of metal components, but should not include actual joining or assembly processes. We're not really looking for traditional materials and processes here, and so all applicants really need to explain how their technology differs from the state of the art and how they go above and beyond what's currently being used. Our next subtopic would be electric drive vehicle power electronics subcomponents. One of the most important challenges for vehicle power electronics is reducing system component and subcomponent costs wherever that's possible. This topic aims to reduce subcomponent costs through new approaches to magnetics and power electronics. Specifically, we're looking at inductors, which are not only large and heavy, but they also use significant amounts of copper. Improvements for power electronics may also be realized at the component sublevel, and specifically through the use of wide bandgap semiconductors that can benefit from smaller and lower loss magnetics. This subtopic is going to be managed by Stephen Boyd, and any specific questions can be reached out for him as well. Moving on to subtopic D and E, these are both managed by Leo Brinton, and I will also be going over those as well today. In subtopic D, we're looking at injector spray imaging techniques. So direct injection engine and diesel injector fuel injection spray technologies offer a significant savings in fuel reduction. We're looking here for advanced imaging and visualization concepts that can characterize both the liquid spray structures as well as the pre-ignition vapor phase of the fuel within the internal combustion engine cycles. The Phase 1 effort should really focus on development and validation of the proposed technology under in-cylinder pre-combustion operating conditions, and then Phase 2 should follow up with that, further advancing what was worked on in Phase 1, characterizing the liquid spray and vapor distribution of actual in-cylinder pre-combustion fuel injections from common fuel injectors under normal operating conditions in the lab environment. Moving on to subtopic E, advanced engine concepts. Here we're focusing on lean burn combustion and gas engines. What kind of concepts we're looking at include the extension of the lean ignition limit air and fuel ratio to greater than 20, doing this under high cylinder pressures up to 100 bar at the time of ignition, which would enable us to do higher load operation. And then we're also looking at lowering or maintaining ignitability, specifically a coefficient of variance of less than 3%. And finally, talking about subtopic F, I believe Steve Przemyski is on the line. Steve, if you're there, you want to go ahead and give a few comments?
So what we're looking for is advanced lubricants or lubricant technologies. Could be additives, nano additives, some other modifications that will improve fuel efficiency by reducing the mechanical friction. The one thing we're not looking for is somebody that just says, I'm going to make the lubricant thinner, unless they have a way to handle increased wear, which is where some of the additives or base oil formulations will come in. And that's all I have. Oh, and by the way, that could be for the engine, the manual transmission, not automatics. We're not going to look at automatics, and the axles. And it could be light duty, heavy duty, or medium duty.
Very good, very good. Brian, I think we have one question for you here under subtopic 7A. Are the components for the high power battery, not the design of the battery, included in this topic?
So if you look at our goals, and our goals include weight reduction, cost reduction, and the actual component part of such a high battery, if you can significantly show how the reduction in cost or something of that nature of the subcomponents could help, it definitely would be something we're interested in. So if you could prove that your technology helps us meet our end goals, that would be something we are interested in.
Great. Brian and Stephen, thank you very much. And we'll go ahead and move on to the last topic here for today. Discussion will be wind, and I believe we have Cash Fitzpatrick who will be representing, or at least kicking off wind, and then maybe handing off subtopics B and C to one or two of his colleagues. Cash, are you there?
Yep, I am, Chris.
Thanks, Cash.
Okay, so as the slide says, the topic manager for 8A, which is the one I'm going to be talking to you today, is actually Shreyas Anthonen, but unfortunately he's on work travel, and so I'm his stand-in for today. The title of 8A topic is Tower and Foundation Systems for Small Wind Turbine Technology. And really the issue that we're trying to address here is that towers and foundations are a significant cost driver for these systems, as much as 50% actually of the entire capex of the system. So applications are sought for innovative self-supporting monopiles or an alternative technology that can reach at least 35 meters tall, meet OEA and IEC standards which are provided in the topic area language, as well as applications should also include a baseline cost and cost reduction estimates for total life cycle costs. And that's basically saying anything from the production of the towers and the foundations through operations and maintenance and even decommissioning. So I'm happy to field any questions, I guess once we've gone through B and C, but I'll go ahead and turn over for part B to Patrick.
Yeah, hi there. This is Patrick Gilman. I'm also in the WIN program with Cash Fitzpatrick. I'm talking today about subtopic 8B, which is avian and bat monitoring systems for offshore wind turbines, offshore wind facilities. This is an issue of some concern in the United States. The way that the regulatory process is set up here, the laws care very much about strike of birds and bats with wind turbines. And it's not something that's been studied very extensively with respect to offshore wind facilities in Europe. So we're looking for sensor packages or software approaches that can be used with existing sensor packages that can basically look for these rare events across the full rotor swept zone of a turbine and are easily integrated into the operations of offshore wind facilities, which means they have to be sort of standalone, robust, and independent for long periods of time in the offshore environment, and need to be able to sift through quite a bit of data. Obviously, if you're taking, for example, video of the full rotor swept area of a machine, you're looking for 1 or 2 collisions perhaps over the course of an entire year. So approaches also to processing that vast amount of data, looking for those rare events, would also be encouraged. So again, happy to take any questions at the end once we've gone through subtopic C, but I'm here.
Thanks, Patrick. And do we have a representative for subtopic C?
Yes, hi. This is Alana Smentek-Dewar, and I'll be covering for topic 8C, which is the U.S. offshore wind O&M vessels personnel and equipment transfer system. The topic manager for this is Greg Matzat, and so please feel free to email him with any questions that you may have on this topic. So offshore wind support vessels need to be able to access wind turbines for scheduled and unscheduled maintenance. And the current technology in Europe restricts the operational window of O&M vessels to waves between 1 and 1.5 meters. And the resulting wind farm accessibility in the North Sea is between 40 and 60%. And this low accessibility can reduce the wind farm availability. And this reduction in availability will lead to increased O&M costs and reduction in revenue because the turbines won't be operating. And while the U.S. may borrow technology from the European experience, vessels and supporting systems designed to service offshore wind farms in the North Sea may be overbuilt and more expensive than a vessel or system necessary for the U.S. offshore wind farms to be developed. So we're looking for applications for the design of a personnel and or equipment transfer system to be retrofitted into an existing U.S. flagged vessel or integrated into a purpose-built U.S. flagged vessel that would service future offshore wind farms in the U.S. And this system should result in increased accessibility of the wind farm and achieve a wind farm availability of greater than 95%. And the necessary deliverables for the topic are described fully in the SBIR prompt. However, I would stress the fact that applicants should indicate the intended service area in the U.S. for this vessel and transfer system, and then show that the wind farm's availability is increased by implementing this transfer system onto that vessel. And with that, I think we can take any questions.
Okay, I believe we have one question for you here in regards to subtopic C. Could novel other purpose-built vessels that transfer stored energy produced from hybrid wind and hydrokinetic turbine technology, for example, hydrogen instead of personnel and equipment transfer, thus reducing crew and increasing window of opportunity and increasing a total capacity factor greater than 71%. I'm sorry, that's a long question here. Be responsive to this subtopic. Would you like me to repeat the beginning of that again?
You know, I would say that this subtopic is restricted to personnel and equipment, namely the equipment made for maintaining the turbine and any systems on the offshore wind platform. And I don't think that fits within the scope of this prompt. But if you'd like to follow up with that question with the topic manager, Greg Matzat, he can address that question.
Okay, very good. We have one here for subtopic B, the avian and bat monitoring technologies. Is the impact of wind turbines on wildlife currently preventing wind facilities, that is to say offshore wind facilities, from being built? Is there an ideal cost range for proposed solutions? And what is your current state of the art in this area? It's quite a few questions there.
Yeah, so with respect to the first question, I would say that it's one of a range of issues that's making it more difficult to build offshore wind facilities. I don't think I would say it's among the primary group, but it's certainly something that facilities will have to address as they go through the permitting process. So solutions are definitely needed there. As far as the cost range goes, I don't think I could tell you just an outright number. I mean, I think at this point we're really trying to figure out what is even possible in terms of integrating a system like this into the operations of an offshore wind farm. And with respect to the state of the art, there's some work going on. There's several groups that have developed sensor packages using acoustics and thermographic cameras and video to look at the rotor swept zone of a turbine. None have been really field tested for this application yet. There's others that are looking at determining collisions with birds or bats through in-blade accelerometers or microphones, and then working on approaches to sort of suss out the signals of those very small events from the noise of the normal loading and unloading of the turbine in windy conditions. I would be there's also some work that's been done in Europe looking at those kinds of approaches with blade-mounted microphones, and that's something that you know the specific questioner can follow up with me on if they want more information.
Okay, let's go ahead and we've got one here, another one for 6B. Are there examples of the types of data expected to be handled for this subtopic? That would be you again, Patrick.
Yeah, so I mean, basically what you're looking for is some means of recording the behavior of a bird or a bat around a wind turbine and distinguishing if collisions have been taking place. So some of the approaches that I talked about include, so the kinds of data you'd be collecting would be, for example, video, and whether that's video in terms of visual spectrum video or infrared or acoustic imaging or radar. I guess we're sort of ambivalent about. The characteristics of performance really need to be that it can identify a collision or identify targets that are traveling around the turbine down to a sufficient level of the taxonomy, so maybe not to a species level, but sufficiently so that regulators would get useful information out of it. In terms of the kind of accelerometer or microphone-based approaches that look at collisions, you'd be looking at basically figuring out ways to process the signal off of the SCADA data related to the output of those accelerometers or microphones, and trying to suss out the collision events from the background noise. So I hope that's helpful.
Very good, Patrick. Thank you very much. And any other questions that you may have for any one of these three subtopic managers, please, as I've advised throughout, let's go ahead and email those questions to them as appropriate. Make sure you include in your emails the topic number and the subtopic letter that's associated with your question. Let me go ahead and we've got a couple minutes here. What I wanted to point out also is topic 9. If you are interested in this technology transfer opportunity, we encourage you. We will not be discussing that technology here. This event is for the federal managers to discuss their topics with you. This is a topic, 2 subtopics that are associated with technology that had been developed at our national labs. And so what you would need to do is contact these lab contacts directly right here if you wanted to pose a question to either one of those. And they should be able to answer those questions as appropriate. You will also find this and the description for topic 9 in our topics document on the website. And lastly, I'd like to thank you all very much for joining us. This link to the recorded webinar will be provided to you along with the copy of the PowerPoint slides shortly following the conclusion of this. If you were registered for this event, it will be sent to the same email in which you registered under, so look for that shortly. And also we will be putting a link to the recording on our website under our Funding Opportunities tab, so you can click into that as well. And also you will find on that same website page there at the DOE SBIR, the science.energy.gov//SBIR, you will find a link to register for tomorrow's topics webinar. So I'd encourage you to go and register if you have not done that already. Again, any questions that you may have, and any questions that we have received or will continue to receive here for a few more minutes, we will make sure that we forward those off to the appropriate manager for their consideration. But I would also highly encourage you to follow up with your questions as appropriate too. So again, thank you all very much, and this concludes our webinar. We do on our website, we have these listed all the way through 2015. We have the 2013, 14, and 15 schedules for both Phase 1 and Phase 2. So the topics were recently issued on Monday, October 28th, and what we will be doing is opening up the funding opportunity announcement in November for you then to go ahead and submit a letter of intent as to whether or not in which topic you are interested in applying for under the funding opportunity announcement. Following the opening of this and before the closing, the letter of intent is due in December, and that's December 16th. If you follow that column there, up and down there, you'll see that the full applications are due next calendar year in February. And of course, we will let all know of the notification of awards in April, and then the grants start in early June. So what you're listening to right now is a topics webinar. The topics opened up on the 28th. Following that, we do have a funding opportunity announcement webinar, and that is going to be scheduled for December 3rd. So if you received an email about these topics webinars, you will also be on that same email list to receive a notification and registration invitation for the FOA webinar. The FOA webinar is where you will be subtopic as a point of contact, and that's one of our federal managers that will is responsible for making the funding decisions under each of those topics that he or she may be listed for. If you have any questions and you're seeking any type of clarification on the topics or in subtopics, you go to that document and you go ahead and contact those folks by way of email as listed in the document there. What we want to emphasize is that we will provide you clarification, but our managers are not going to sit down and talk with you and tell you whether or not your technology or your specific innovation is responsive to what they are looking for. They can just provide you their insight, but they will not tell you. The decision to apply is 100% yours. Regardless of what you hear from our managers, the decision is all yours. So here's an example topic. I apologize for it is a tight fit here, but it has all the elements that you will find when you're going through our topics document here. What we do is we start off with the title of the topic, and each topic has a description of what we're looking for, and then we have subtopics. This one happens to have two subtopics, A and B. And you'll notice under each of these is a point of contact. Those are the questions that I was referring to earlier. So these are the people that you will want to email. Welcome all to the Department of Energy's SBIR, STTR, Fiscal Year 14, Phase 1, Release 2 Topics webinar. My name is Chris O'Gwyn, and I will be moderating today's meeting and also introducing the topic portion of this overview to you. Manny Oliver, the Director of the Department's SBIR STTR Programs Office, offers his apologies that he couldn't make it today, but he will be online tomorrow for the second half of our topics webinar. This go-around for this release, topics, Phase 1, Release 2 topics, we have 22 topics, and today, following my introduction, you'll hear from the subtopic and topic managers and or their representatives for topics 1 and 22 and for 2 and through 8. Topic 9 is a TTO, Technology Transfer Opportunity topic, which will not be covered during this either one of these discussions today or tomorrow, so we would recommend that you go ahead and contact those points of contact directly if you have any questions in regards to the TTO topic 9. Okay, so today's agenda, what we will be covering is just the first couple minutes. I'll be talking to you a little bit about the way we organize and put these topics together. And then, as I mentioned earlier, you'll be asking all of the questions that are near and dear to your heart as to what an application looks like, the elements of an application, due dates, letters of commitment, commercialization plans, all of the elements of an application and submitting an eligibility. That is the webinar that you will want to attend if you have those type of questions. Today's webinar is just about the technical content and as much as we can get in just 5 or 10 minutes worth on the topics. So if you have any questions on these topics as we discuss them today, please submit those in your chat box at the bottom of your screen there. And following each of the technical topic managers or their representatives' presentation on these topics, I will read these questions aloud, and we'll let the topic manager address them as appropriate. So the basics. As I mentioned earlier, topics are created by the DOE program managers, and they are the ones working in conjunction with laboratories, our national labs, or our universities. They work very closely with them. That's where most of our R&D funding goes to, and so they work in conjunction to develop the topics. And as you go through this topics document on our website and as provided to you in the registration link, you'll see that there is under each you'll be hearing from the two offices, the Office of Electricity Delivery and Energy Reliability, for topics 1 and 22, and then the remainder will be with the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. Okay, what we do with phase 1, I guess as early as or as late or just a few years ago, we just would put out one release a year. We didn't even call it a release. We just called our funding opportunity announcement for phase 1. We have now divided that into 2 separate solicitations, one that comes out normally in the summer, and the other that comes out, release 2, comes out in the fall time, and that's where we are right now. And so if you look down there at phase 1, release 2, those are the program offices within the Department of Energy that are going to be putting out topics for this solicitation. Here's our schedule, and if you go to our website, you will find a table that looks very similar to this. And what it will do, and it almost will always look the same. The dates are very similar going from one year to the next, so you can plan on a release 2 coming out in the fall time. And the same thing with the release 1 coming out. The topics would be issued in July of that year. They're always within a date.